What it mean to be the best? Riding foes, feeling unimpressed. Make me reminisce, throwing bows, bend the corner, set my mind up on the goal. All I know is stay down, bad, I'm the goal. Okay, feel like the best, the great. Now ain't no debate. Yeah. Okay, feel like the best, the great. Now ain't no debate. Yeah. I ain't gotta say much. Know the boy got a touch. Another win for the rush. Another win for the rush. See me once and got a crush. See you twice and that's enough. Get the ring sized up.
What's up? Welcome in. Chiefs Kingdom, we're back. Tell the Truth, episode 56. The question of the day is are we satisfied? I'll tell you guys a quick story. So I was in the Bahamas this weekend. Enjoyed a great trip on the beach, man. I had to get away from some of this cool weather.
Island. Out there on
Chill on the
island.
beach, you dig?
On the island.
I go to the beach too if I could.
And so due to the NFL's kind of dumb rules, I couldn't really watch the first half of this game because I was too busy doing other things. I couldn't see it on my phone because of YouTube TV, the NFL Plus, it's a whole thing. So I was just watching things kind of unfold with, the game log or whatever. And then eventually I went downstairs to the sports book and then I was able to actually see the game. And I was sitting there, I'm like, wow, I feel a lot less stressed than I normally do. But at the end of the game, I didn't feel like excited. I didn't feel elated. I didn't feel over the moon. I just was like, well, we survived another week. So I don't know. We won by 14 points. The defense had 6 takeaways. Jameis Winston looked awful. They had to bench him for Dorian Thomas-Robinson. I don't think I said that name correctly, but y'all know it's DTR. Trent McDuffie got his first interception. The offense struggled, but look, you won by 14 points. You should be happy, right? Well, you're 13-1. You have the best record in the National Football League because the Lions didn't take care of the Bills at home because their defense is going through hell, it appears. And, it is what it is. Next week on the Texans. Oh, yeah, apparently Patrick Mahomes has an ankle injury that apparently should have kept him out the rest of the regular season if you asked the national media 24 hours ago. They just decided that he got hurt for the rest of the year, apparently.
He's cooked. He's like, what do you mean I'm cooked? He's like, I'm good.
They all acted like he wasn't walking out of the stadium in sneakers. I don't know what happened. Anyway, how are you guys doing, DG, CJ? How you guys doing, man?
Good, man. Another week, another dub, man. Feels good. The question is, are we satisfied? I think it's okay to criticize, but at the same time, like, I'm not gonna sit here and complain about being 13-1. So, hey, I'm good. Like, Chiefs at this point, like, we've won 3 Super Bowls in the last some odd years or whatever. They don't really owe me that much.
You can't expect perfect football every week, man. We've been playing into January, February, like DG said, for the last 6 years. If you expecting perfection and great game plans every single week, you kind of sound a little spoiled. You sound like a little bit of a brat, just a little bit. Like you got to just sit back and big picture.
You sound like Patriots fans.
You kind of do. Like we used to hate. We used to be on the other side. We used to hate New England. We used to hate Patriots fans. Like, why are they complaining? And they go to the Super Bowl every year. Y'all sound just like them. Now look in the mirror, calm down, breathe. Like DMac said, we're 13-1.
More.
You want everything. I get it. You want the world. I'm not mad at you, but you got to be realistic with your expectations. Yes. We've been playing into January, February for 6 years. I repeat, 6 years. That is a lot of football. You're not going to be mentally locked into your job if you've been doing the same thing for 6 years straight. You're going to have a mental lapse every now and then. It is what it is. This team has their flaws. They know what they're good at. They know what they're not good at. This is the time of the year. I believe this may be the turning point, kind of like the Cincinnati game last year. First, the Bengals at home. We have 3 games left, fellas. 2 wins guarantees us a bye. In my mind, you have 2 options. You could have sat Patrick this week, guarantee yourself some rest, and then you go into your playoff run and try to go 3-peat. Or you could win these next 2 games, get your rest going into the playoffs. Then you only have to win 2 games to get to the Super Bowl. If those are your options, I think they're probably going to lean towards we want the rest in January because it leads you into the playoffs. Play these next 2 games. Obviously, it's 2 games in 5 days, 4 days, sorry. I know it's tough. In their mind, they think if we win these games, we can handle our business on the back end. That's what's in front of us right now.
I don't understand why people have been treating Patrick Mahomes like he's a fragile China doll for the last 48 hours. Like he's not built made of glass. He rolled his ankle, and look, the hit was kind of nasty. It did not look
keyword
great, but he rolled his ankle. It's not the end of the world. I promise.
Like he broke it.
So they had the X-rays. They're negative. They said it's a grade 1 sprain. If he's fine, he's going to play. I don't understand where the notion is that he needs to be saved from himself. I agree that he's had a lot on his plate. And we'll talk about the play calling and things of that nature, obviously running the ball, but he is going to go out there and play if he's physically able to, and the Chiefs are going to physically put him out there to play because that's the job. That's what you ask these guys to do. And once the 1 seed is wrapped up, then the rest conversation comes. If your idea is we need to give Patrick Mahomes a rest, then give the Hall of Fame tight end you're playing 90% of the snaps a rest to. Give the Hall of Fame defensive tackle that you're giving 90% of the snaps to a rest too, because they need it too, I promise you, because they're both older than Patrick Mahomes and they're carrying a hell of a burden on their shoulders too. So to me, I thought that the way this discourse has gone has been idiotic. Patrick Mahomes, if he's able to play, he's going to play because that's just his nature. That's the nature of them trying to secure the 1 seed. And then you'll be able to turn around versus Steelers, hopefully secure the 1 seed on the short turnaround, and then get yourself some rest, handle the Broncos game as you so choose. And you have the bye week going into the week as well. And guess what? If you go on the road and lose to the Steelers, then you can still, off of 10 days rest, go to the Broncos and go and secure the 1 seed then. So to me, I thought that the discourse was kind of dumb. I truly don't think it is. And also, I don't know why people are acting like the Texans are a bad team. Like, I get their offense has struggled. They have one of the best defenses in the National Football League. You think that Carson Wentz behind this offensive line has struggled to give clean pockets to Patrick Mahomes is going to be fine? You think that's going to be a recipe for success? No, it's not going to be a recipe for success. You're conceding the game. And if you want to concede the game, then give the Hall of Fame defensive tackle and tight end that's 30-plus years old a chance to rest. Because then you're saying that the 1 seed doesn't matter as much as actual rest and preparation, which is perfectly fine. Preserve those guys, but you can't act like you're just going to walk in against the Texans and win that game. I don't think that that's accurate, me personally. So yeah, some frustrations that we've had over the last 48 hours, which have, pretty much had nothing to do with the game, of course. Speaking on the game, though, so the major headline kind of going into this was the left tackle situation. Joe Thuney lined up at left tackle opposite of a lot of Myles Garrett snaps as well going into this game. I'm interested from the standpoint. We know Carson Wentz has played before. He struggles. I can't argue with the comments. I'm not going to do it.
So can I just
go ahead,
jump in real quick? I don't look. I do believe that the Chiefs would be capable of winning a game against the Texans with Carson Wentz.
I think we all agree with that.
But I do think that Mahomes definitely gives you the better chance to win that game. I feel like if Carson were to play, you'd have to have a lot of things go in your favor, And I think if Pat plays, you don't need as many things to go in your favor because he makes up for some of those deficiencies.
It's also agrees with DG because the line was -20.
I get that.
And then Patrick Mahomes practiced for 1 week or 1 day, and then they were like, "Fuck, we got to make the Chiefs the favorites because otherwise people are going to keep robbing us," which I did when I ran to Kansas, by the way.
Oh yeah, I definitely took Chiefs plus money yesterday.
Look, I get, with the offensive line issues and things of that nature, it could look a little worse with Carson Wentz back there. But I do think that if you were to play Carson Wentz in this situation, then it alters how you kind of call the game from Andy Reid's standpoint. And I kind of think that it works a little bit better in the Chiefs' favor if they were to run their offense like that, being more efficient on the ground game, going to their quick, short passing game, wherever. Now, I'm not saying that you might not have the same success because, like I said, Patrick Mahomes, in my opinion, makes up for some of those deficiencies that you have even if you run your offense in that nature. But I do believe You take care of the ball, run it effectively, you know, hit your shots and chances and go to your quick short game when you need to with Carson Wentz. I do think that you could possibly pull out a win. I'm not guaranteeing anything. I feel a lot more confident if Pat plays, but I don't. We've seen from Andy Reid's track record, we've seen him take Matt Moore. We've seen him take Chad Henne. We've seen him take, other backup quarterbacks when he was in Philly. And be able to win games with those guys for the extent that he needed to. But I do think Mahomes, if he can go, like you said in our space the other day, if he's hurt, he's playing. If he's injured, then you have to sit him. Right. So I think at this point we're at the point of he's hurt, but he's good.
Dang near everybody is this time of year.
It's like Michael Jordan with the flu or whatever. Put him on the court. You honestly know, like, he's the best player in the league. You can't run things the same way you want them. You want to run them when he's out of the game. Put him in the game. He gives you the best opportunity to win and to win Super Bowls at this point. So if Mahomes can go, I'm perfectly fine with him being out. We've seen him do it before plenty of other time. I don't know why a lot of people were acting like he broke his ankle or whatever when that was not the case. A mild grade 1 sprain, to me, in my opinion. He said himself it wasn't as bad as the one. Honestly, when you go back and look at the tape, it wasn't as bad as the one in the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Everybody knew it wasn't that bad. The media just exaggerates for no reason. Like,
yeah,
it really wasn't that bad.
I ain't gonna lie. The Jaguars one, I thought his ankle was broken.
I thought it was.
So for him, this time around when he got up, I could still see he's like, okay, he's okay. He's walking back to the sideline. But we're acting like, bro, like in the Tampa Bay Bucks game, he had the same issue. We all literally were scared thinking
that one was even more scary because he stayed down.
Yeah, it was it was non-contact at that point in time. So it's not like Pat has never played, with his ankle like this. I from my opinion, I've been saying it for a while. I don't know why he doesn't play with his ankles already taped to this point. As many injuries as he's been through.
I am surprised about that too.
Yeah, like it kind of baffles me that you already don't go out there prepared, you see linemen do it, you see receivers do it, you see pretty much everybody in the league if they had some kind of issues like that do it before. So I don't know why he doesn't or whatever. Maybe I know for me when I played, I hated having my ankles taped or whatever. It's a weird feeling for me, but at the same time, I'd rather be able to play than not be able to play. So that's just my spiel on it. I'm sorry.
My thing is this: if you're going to do those things, do them with Patrick Mahomes. Put him under center.
Yes.
Not going to, because it's
that leads me to my point.
They're not going to do those things. And if you want to do them for Carson Wentz, then why don't you make life easier on your quarterback?
Right.
Well, they're going to do it this week
because you've required a lot of him for so much of this.
I think the argument though is that if Carson plays, it forces them to literally do it.
Which is dumb. Run the football, play action, quick games, things we want to see them do already.
I know that there is some aspect of playoff game planning that they hold certain stuff back from, but they could make this offense so much easier on themselves if they chose to help out the quarterback. They just choose not to a lot of times, and it is annoying from that standpoint. So that's just me, and I don't think that it's automatically a loss, but I think that if you're setting the signal that this guy that's hurt needs to sit down, for rest purposes, there are other guys on the team you should be treating the same way, in my opinion. You're not winning a championship without. And I think if Carson Wentz starts, you guys would be the underdog, or we would be the underdog from that standpoint. And Vegas agrees, and that's why the line was what it was. Anyway, Joe Thuney at left tackle. Definitely had a tall task ahead of him, obviously facing a lot of Myles Garrett. I thought that you saw as good of a game from Joe Thuney as you possibly could have asked. And that's just the reality situation. I will also give a shout out. Mike Caliendo played pretty well at guard. And I think that that's actually probably the most underrated takeaway of the game was that even though there wasn't like a really difficult matchup as far as
you didn't hear his name anytime during the game, honestly.
He did a solid job. And so I think that from the standpoint of, hey, last year you did obviously need somebody to step in for Joe Thuney, and Nick Allegretti fulfilled that role. I think that now you can have some level of confidence that Mike Caliendo can come in and be a serviceable guard if called upon to this point, which is nice. It's nice to have that in the back pocket for that standpoint. How did you guys feel about Joe Thuney's performance at left tackle this week?
Play like a pro's pro. Didn't give up too many pressures. Outside of the day of the play with they were talking about Myles Garrett's eye, and apparently it's something with his helmet or Thuney's pads or something grazed him. You didn't hear Johnny Thuney's name really all that much. Pat had clean pockets, kind of the same issue we've been talking about the last month, kind of running out of scenarios it doesn't need to. Throwing and this is how I know, and DMac, I know you talk about the playoff scenario and the playoff playbook. Yes, Sunday was the definition of they're not using their playoff playbook. There's no way in God's name you're telling me we have a 2-touchdown lead and you're throwing the ball 8 straight times in the second half with a 2-touchdown lead. That's not a winning game plan. That is not a football scenario where you're like, hey, what gives us the best chance to win? Doing that does not give you a better chance to win. Doing that is the process of like, hey, we want to see what plays can we run with Caliendo, what plays can we not run with Joe Thuney? What plays can we run with Kareem Hunt? What plays can we not run with Kareem Hunt? That's what that scenario was. On Sunday was not a game plan you do when you're trying to win a football game. Sunday was an area where we can experiment, figure out what works and figure out what doesn't work. People don't want to believe me. They don't see it. Look at the film yourself. There's no way you throw the ball 8 straight times, which led to Mahomes, unfortunately, rolling his ankle. That is not a game-winning formula. We said these same things last year, and when we happened to go to the playoffs, we started to run the football more, play action, quick game, all the things we would see with Carson Wentz, they did with Patrick Mahomes. You're probably going to see that this week because of why his ankle's hurt. I don't know why the coaching staff does this. I'm baffled just like y'all. They don't do these things until their back's against the wall, and they absolutely have to. I don't get it. It drives me crazy too. But I'm just telling you the scenario, and Sunday was a perfect example of that.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I thought Joe Thuney was a lot better than I thought he was going to be.
He's a pro. He done this before.
Yeah. We had seen him do it before, of course, a couple years ago.
Now, I don't want to see the rest of the playoffs, but, I mean, in a break-the-glass scenario, Joe Thuney can do the job.
So, I think what ultimately helps is him being able to have a full week of preparation, to get the game plan, especially what they had game plan for Myles Garrett. I also got to give the coaching staff credit for that. They had a really good game plan to kind of attack Myles Garrett and kind of isolate and take him out of the game at points in times. He still got pressure. I mean, it's Myles Garrett. You can only stop him so much. Or whatever. But I really think that him having a full week underneath his belt to kind of get the reps at left tackle really helped. And then just being a veteran at this point, I knew it wouldn't be too bad just because I feel confident knowing Joe Thuney's played at the highest level anybody can play at, being an All-Pro in this league at guard. So I kind of had a feeling he would, there would be some nuances and things, techniques that he would know to be able to go out there and perform at a serviceable level. And I think he just did just that, man. Didn't hear his name a whole bunch. There were a lot of times where it was a clean pocket, and I kind of felt like Pat just held on to the ball or made the wrong read. Especially the one that really kills me is the one he missed Xavier on that mesh concept. Across the middle of I still think Xavier would be running today to the end zone because there was literally nobody on that side of the field. At least would have picked up the first down. But I think there's points in times where 15 he makes a mistake at points in times and it runs into some pressure and runs into some sacks. I don't think they sacked this game at all. More so just pressured, hit a couple times or whatever. They do think Cleveland had a good plan with some of their blitz packages and stuff like that to kind of caught the line off guard a little bit. But overall, man, Joe Thuney, look, that's as best as you can probably ask for at that point in time to step in and then tell him to go face arguably the best pass rusher in the game. look, I wouldn't want to be tasked with that job at all. So more power to him. I don't think that should be a lineup going forward, but I'm glad that he was able to step in and do it and keep 15 upright for at least 3 quarters.
They did, they did what they could to say this. This had to kind of happen because DJ got hurt, and they destroyed Kingsley's confidence from that standpoint. Didn't really have much of a choice. The one thing that CJ mentioned was a part of kind of working on things in the offense, and this is something that I kind of talked about. The way that you did beat this Cleveland Browns defense, generally speaking, is pushing the ball down the field, creating explosive plays. They were really good at being able to stop offenses from, being able to drive down the field and have 13-play drives, which you obviously saw because the Chiefs didn't really put that together except for one drive. And so I think it was a point of emphasis to try and get the ball down the field. And I think that's why you saw Mahomes sometimes pass some of those things up, and it didn't necessarily end up working out from that aspect too. And so to me, I don't necessarily think that even though Mahomes didn't have a great day, I think that some of that was obviously the weather. I think some of that was the game plan, and obviously that they were dealing with the issues that they were specifically at the left tackle position. And again, I say this very wholeheartedly. Like, Joe Thuney went out there as a warrior. He did as well as you possibly could have imagined. I struggled to get that one out. He held up, to the point that he could. But all that being said, he still gave up double-digit pressures. Like, he still gave up 10 pressures, gave up 2 quarterback sits, gave up 8 hurries. He had by far the worst game of his season. Like, it wasn't even close. He's been struggling much better at the left guard position. That's just a reality situation because he's not a tackle, and that's why this isn't a long-term solution. And it was bad for left tackle, or I should say just bad for offensive line performance standards. But given what we asked him to do, I have to tip my cap just for being able to go out there and do that from that standpoint. So Joe Thuney at left tackle, it was a Band-Aid that they had to go to, but it is something that's not a long-term solution. We'll obviously see about DJ Humphries. Did not practice today. This is also a shortened week with Shin Saturday. So it may be a thing where they have to put Joe Thuney out there again at left tackle, but we'll see how that progresses from that standpoint as well. But yeah, generally speaking, first off, the line was fine. I thought, Trey maybe was a little bit up and down, but outside of that, I think, generally speaking, the offensive line was fine. Offense, I thought wasn't, up and down. Obviously, they struggled to run the ball again. I think it was like 3.8 per carry. And that included, some of the Xavier Worthy, which included the Xavier Worthy touchdown, which somehow wasn't counted as a passing touchdown. I didn't know. But the running back runs did not necessarily have a lot of success from that standpoint. Isaiah Pacheco was inefficient, extremely inefficient. Kareem Hunt was just okay from that standpoint. They never really could get it going on the ground. But again, that's what the Browns do. They don't allow you to run the ball that well. They don't allow you to drive down the field with short passes all that well. And that's what the Chiefs offense has kind of been built upon this entire year. Yeah, Scratch, he didn't practice today, so we'll see what ends up happening as well. And we'll get a little bit into Hollywood Brown later on as well, as he was a full participant in practice, fortunately.
Keyword full. Even though today's a walkthrough, be mindful. Not really. They're not really going to practice and pass probably the rest of the year. If anything, they do shell, but they're not going to have any real practices the rest of the season. So everything is probably walkthrough or half speed. So
yeah, we'll see. I was trying to, sorry. So we'll see about Hollywood Brown. We'll talk about it a little bit later on. But I'd say, as far as the Joe Thuney at left tackle, I'm not personally satisfied. I don't think this is a long-term solution to answer the question.
Well, I wouldn't say that.
Yeah. So as far as the run game is concerned, I think that we agree that they can run the ball a lot better than they did on Sunday. But the idea that they threw the ball 8 straight times, the fact that they had the incompletions, the fact that Mahomes had to drop back as often as he had to. What are you guys' thoughts as far as the experimental nature of this offense right now? The fan base's apparent fever to try and blame Matt Nagy for something that is outside of his control. And the idea that they simply are deciding not to run the ball when the weather is getting colder for some reason.
I just want to confirm, today Eric Bieniemy was on the herd, and he said that Andy Reid calls the plays, and we just relay them to the quarterback.
Kelsey told y'all that 2 years ago.
So I don't know where the blame for Matt Nagy. I get it. Like,
it's fun to blame the OC. That's the easy way.
I understand it, but I just don't get why.
Players and coaches have told y'all it's Andy, and y'all still blame the OC.
Wrong. Everything runs through Big Red, bro. There's nothing that's gonna happen on that field if it doesn't go through Big Red first. And I think there are points in times where Andy has shown us, especially now since Patrick has been here, that they've been a lot more aggressive. Some of his clock management issues, I feel like, have digressed just because of what Patrick Mahomes brings to this team. But at the same time, bro, the man is giving you 3 Super Bowls. So to get to the point where I'm gonna start doubting a Hall of Fame coach is not a place where I'm gonna get to.
This is when y'all start signing entitled. Not the beginning. This is where that stems from.
So I do I think that things could be different? Maybe on the accountability standard if Eric Bieniemy was here over Matt Nagy, maybe. But I just don't think it changes anything. Yet. All in all, this offense has to go out on the field and they have to execute what's being called. Sometimes they're not doing that at points in times. But I do believe that there are points in times where there could be a little bit better play calling. I think both things can be true. The only really issue I had with some of the play calling was just the 4th and 3 play. I really don't understand why you were trying to go for it anyway. You were already up 14. Jameis Winston wasn't moving the ball like that. And he probably was going to turn it over for another time again, as he had proven to you. So I would have just punted in that situation and just trusted the defense to get off the field. But, you get a little greedy sometimes and you think you can get away with some things and you just didn't at that point and execute. So, but, Andy takes blame for that. He'll always say that, that's on me. We'll fix that. We'll get that changed or whatever. It is what it is, man. But I just think this offense right now, to me, they are tailored to do certain things. I still feel like they can run the ball very effectively, but I feel like if they do it, they have to do it underneath center. Just line up and run it. I think this offensive line is good enough to move people up front. If you just line up and do that, I really don't like the shotgun draw game at this point. We haven't executed it very well this year.
You gotta be able to throw the ball effectively to run a draw.
Yeah,
first,
and that's an issue as well too. So I think that's something that they kind of have to get a little bit away from. I've been saying it. I think that Pat needs to be under center a little bit more, and I think that he will probably, as we get closer to the playoffs and things of that nature, using that play action and more heavier package personnel in the game at points in time. So, yeah, this I think this offense is predicated to being a ball controlled 12, 13 play drive offense. And that's what they're going to have to be. I think it's they need to stay in third and manageable. We've seen them have the highest conversion rate this year on third downs, and that's because they've done a good job of staying in those third and shorts or whatever. But they're not a team, man. I've been saying it all year. They're not a team that can play behind the sticks anymore. You're not a team that can afford to throw it 8 consecutive times and not run a single run at all. Not even one. Not a single one. And that was utterly frustrating to see. So I don't know what was going on at that point. I don't know if they were experimenting or like hey, let's just go out and let's just try
The
stuff
definition of
or
experiment.
whatever, you know. But that was to me, in my opinion. If I'm coaching at that point, I'm trying to burn as much clock as I can and get out of here with a dub. While I think the defense was playing well enough to where you could at least even got in the field goal range and just kick field goals for the rest of the half or whatever, and escaped out of Cleveland, with the win. But all in all, they still did that, man. Defense played great, so it is what it is. You gotta have complementary football at points in time. So, I think this offense will get it together as we get closer to the playoffs.
I think is like you should have run the ball more often, but if your idea coming into this game was to attack the Browns down the field, understandably so, then get under center and create some play action shot plays to do so. It's just it's incredibly frustrating that there are really aspects, and this is where the Matt Nagy type of conversation I think actually is relevant. The issue is not Matt Nagy. The issue is that Matt Nagy is a part of Andy Reid's tree. And we've seen the revolving door of Andy Reid coach guys or coaching tree guys continue to come in and out of here. Eric Bieniemy, Doug Peterson, obviously Matt Nagy now. And obviously Matt Kafka went to go with Brian Daboll. But getting some new blood into that room to just add some different elements to the offensive game plan or offensive scheme design specifically, because game plan is too broad. That includes sequencing, things of that nature, and actually calling plays. The offensive design itself, I think, is the major thing that would help a lot. But that's an offseason conversation. They should have run the ball more here. Simply at a protection standpoint, you knew the Browns weren't going to be able to make a comeback with their offense. You knew that the only thing that you needed to do was drain clock at that point. And I thought it was professional malpractice by the point of just continuing to have straight drop back game. It was inexcusable at a certain point, and it shouldn't have continued as well. CJ, do you have anything to add on that point specifically?
We've had these same issues. The whole we don't run the ball enough. We said that when Eric Bieniemy was here. We said that before Eric Bieniemy was here. So the whole Nagy thing, that is an Andy Reid special. He doesn't want to run the football until his back is against the wall. My favorite run formation that we run is called our veer set. We only run it in the playoffs. Or I think we've run it in the regular season twice this year, I think. We ran it once against the Bengals, and I believe the Ravens. It's when we pass under center, ironically, and we have two backs veer just like this right behind him. And he reverse pivots either to whichever the three tech is shading away from our guard or away from Creed, essentially. And we pivot around to Creed or to Kareem, or he pivot around to Pacheco, hands it out to one of them, and they get the first down. That's his go-to play whenever it's 3rd and 1 or 4th and short, and it works almost every time for us. We only run that play usually when it's like a must-win game, usually in the playoffs. You're probably going to see that play. And you can clip this because we're probably going to run back to this beforehand. But from a run game standpoint, we've been yelling about Andy Reid's clock issue, run management since he's been here since 2013. That is nothing new. So OC or no OC, it doesn't matter. They don't take the game that serious until the playoffs come. And Sunday was a definition of that. When the games matter and it's on the line and you had to win or go home, they will run the necessary plays. We've seen this before. We saw it last year. We had the most drops in the National Football League last year, and we were still throwing the football. What the hell y'all think we're going to do this year? It's not nearly as bad, and we're still not running the football. So don't give me that, we're not good enough. Yes, they are. They just choose not to be. When the game is on the line, you will probably see it this week, or more than likely Wednesday when we play the Steelers. When it's money on the line and you have to win these two games to secure rest time for us in our scenario, and Patrick ankle is in question, now you're going to see them run the football more and be more under center and use quick game screens, more jet sweeps, more Mecole style type plays, Xavier Worthy style type plays to get easy completions and easy yardage for the offense and make their job less harder, mainly make the offensive line's job less difficult, because we're going to take the pressure off them by running the football. You'll see those things now because the game's starting to matter more. In the first 15 to 16, they don't matter that much because, like DMac was saying, we're 13-1. What's the pressure for? Fans are upset. From a coach's standpoint, I want to figure out what works and what doesn't work because I need to check these things off my box so I can condense my playbook down to January football. And we'll see that here in a matter of 3 weeks. That's it.
Yeah. Look, so we'll see it happen. And it's just frustrating for right now. and
Absolutely.
we'll see how it ends up going from that standpoint as well. So, not satisfied with the run game. To keep answering this question. Are we satisfied with the defense? Taking the ball away 6 times and 5 times. Special teams obviously was able to get the 6th one. Shout out to Chris Wallace. We are going to use this as our Tell the Truth tape of the week, kind of breaking down these plays specifically because I think it's interesting. And I think it also folds into some of the discussion around what Charles Omenihu has also brought back to the pass rush from the standpoint and being able to bring some juice back that the coaching staff refuses to put Joshua Uche out there to help out with. I'm going to remind people of that all the time because it's excusable. So I did want to start just with the punt return because this was also the first takeaway of the game. Matt Ariza had a solid day, punted far too often, but he did have a solid day from the standpoint. Was able to have a nice one here. But yeah, Chris Wallace deserves a lot of credit for being able to create that turnover right there. Gets it able to pop out. I don't know who ended up coming out of the scrum with the football, but shout out to him for as a gunner being able to do his job from that standpoint. And hey, he was the first guy up. I think when Shamari kind of went down to go into the slot. So Chris Wallace has been making some solid contributions.
I think it was P. Ryan came up with it.
Was that P. Ryan? Oh, P. Ryan came up with it. Okay, yeah, I see 34 right there.
So Majay is a football player. He recovers kicks. He returns kicks. He picks up blitzes. He does it all. One of my favorite signings of the whole season.
And he's not allowed to run the ball because they don't like.
Well, he did this game at garbage time, but he did do it though.
Garbage time. Okay, so this is the first Cleveland Brown turnover for Jameis Winston here. Nothing too crazy. It's, little play action. They're going to try and get a deep shot down the middle of the field. Really good job of Brian Cook getting into the back pedal there, staying on top of it and making sure that he can help out in the middle of the field there. I don't know why Jameis Winston throws this ball, but of course everybody has asked that question for the entirety of Jameis Winston's career, and we still have not necessarily found the answer to that. The Lord has not delivered him from the interceptions. It did deliver him from pick sixes in this game. Just forcing double coverage and really athletic play from Brian Cook. I thought Cook had a solid game overall when I went back and watched it from this standpoint.
Man, I love Jameis, but guys, you gotta. I know you trust your guys, dog, but sometimes it's just not there, man. It's just not there. Like this is a really boneheaded throw. Like I know you're trying to give your receiver a shot or whatever, but yeah, that's not gonna get it done against us at all. But great job of Brian Cook, playing center field at that point in time. The defense I thought they were solid, man. Flying around, pressure was great. I think this was arguably one of their more pressure games, and I know some people kind of claim that Cleveland's Brown offensive line was somewhat good, but I don't see it. But yeah, I think Charles Omenihu has really brought back a lot of juice to this defensive line. George Karlaftis, I appreciate him for showing back up because he went missing in action for a good couple weeks. So it was good to see him back again. Chris Jones is always himself. I think the linebackers in this game, as well as from Nick Bolton to Drew Tranquil and Leo Chanel, I think they all played extremely well. I think Nick Bolton was an animal again for the second week in a row. Just everywhere out there. And
great pass off. Great pass off right there.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I think that's the most important part of this specific play, and obviously, tip ball. It's not the most forced error there from the defense from that standpoint, but you got to be in the position to actually make that play. And Nick Bolton dropping out here in the middle of the field, passes off the tight end to Drew Tranquil on that side, and is getting himself into position to go ahead and make a play on the check down that Jameis is going to end up taking. A little bit off target throw, and he's able to get in position not only to tip the ball, but then also secure the interception.
Gotta be a little luck when you're trying to get a turnover, fellas. All you need is a
I
little
called
luck.
it. I remember I said last week, I said it'll either be Nick Bolton or one of our linebackers.
I said the safeties, and they all had Jaden had one.
But dang near everybody got one this game. I tell you that much.
And I said
James
James gonna give
got
him up,
this
baby.
one.
James gonna give him up.
Yeah. I'm glad Jameis was not delivered from turnovers.
Delivery comes from the Lord.
Glad his prayers went unanswered. God is great, and I hope he keeps doing this thing.
Hey, he may not be there where you want him, but he always right on time.
Right, he was definitely on time this Sunday.
He was on time this Sunday.
Yeah, so good job of Nick Bolton being aware, being able to get to that check down after passing that tight end off going from the zone. And hey, that's what you're supposed to do as a middle linebacker. He was able to do his job right there pretty effectively. Nothing crazy from the defensive line there. Karlaftis and Dana getting around the edge from that standpoint. So the second one, obviously, this is a play that started off with Karlaftis getting some early pressure. There's a lot to break down from this standpoint. Ultimately speaking, this play is obviously made by Trent McDuffie, but you'll see they're running a little bit of a man, maybe a little cover one underneath as well. They've got pretty much everything well covered up ultimately across the board. Jameis just tries to force it down the field with Trent McDuffie as the back turned. Ultimately, of course, this is a play that we learned afterwards of the game that Trent McDuffie ends up playing because he peeks at the scoreboard to go ahead and make that play, which is incredible awareness. You got to give him a lot of credit for being able to do so. So Jameis Winston escapes the initial pressure from George Karlaftis here coming over the edge. They're trying to get a little cross block on the tight end. He beats him around. Jameis launches it up, and Trent McDuffie takes a real slight peek before getting his head around. You're not going to be able to see it on this view, but gets his head around and gets a knee down and a catch, and then also is interfered with because I think what's his name? Who's 81? That's not Moore, right? It's
it's not Woods.
Somebody else they were playing.
Yeah, it's one of the guys they brought up. Yeah.
Higgins, that's his name. Higgins. Higgins is grabbing Trent McDuffie's helmet from behind and pulling it upwards. And McDuffie's still able to catch it. So that's a heck of a way to get your first interception. We've seen him drop even easier ones, but I'm glad that Trent McDuffie was able to get on the board here from that standpoint too.
Yeah, great play. It's a damn shame that your first one has to be the most difficult one you'll probably ever have to get in your career. Yeah. But yeah, hell of a play by Trent. Man, I'm glad that's finally over. We can finally stop wondering when that was coming or whatever. So yeah, it just shows this is he still, has ability to have some ball skills there or whatever. So hopefully there's more to come. That's what I'm hoping for this defense. Them turnovers, to me, in my opinion, come in bunches in this league at points in time. So I'm hoping that they're getting hot at the right moment. And hopefully this game is something they can kind of expound upon and continue that. That was the best pass rush rep all day. And Charles,
we'll go.
That looked like the Baltimore game, Charles. You could tell his
Charles
knees starting to get a little more
big.
loose. He getting fluid. That looked like that Baltimore rush we saw last year. So his timing is definitely starting to get back.
I'm glad you did bring that up. So we'll ask this at the end. But moving on here, I did want to include, this wasn't technically a takeaway, but
Chris
obviously
drawing 3 people. Jesus.
Yes, that's the big thing. So this is a fumble strip sack around the edge for Charles Omenihu. Chris Jones is here at the bottom of the screen. The Browns are going to send Higgins, the 81, the wide receiver. They're going to send the tight end to Chip as well. The right tackle is kind of occupied initially by the blitz, just to be sure. Then he comes to help. And they also sent the running back to Chip. That's what Chris Jones does. And for all you people that look at the sack numbers for Chris Jones, just pay attention because I'm going to give you the reverse angle. Pay attention to how many people are trying to block Chris Jones here and what that does, because that's going to allow Charles Omenihu one-on-one with the left tackle on the other side to get the strip sack. But again, they send a wide receiver at him, and a tight end sent at him. Right tackle comes over to help. The running back is occupied, and Charles Omenihu is able to go right around the left tackle and get that quick strip sack. And that's one of the things that I think Charles Omenihu specifically brings to the table that I love. He goes after the football when he has the opportunity to. And that's something that can be a game changer as far as defensive plays are concerned. Because, again, when you go after the football as a defender, you can end drives single-handedly. We saw him do it versus the Ravens in the AFC Championship game. Obviously, he attempted to do so here. Wasn't able to recover it, but still being able to strip that ball out creates a sack. Excellent play from Charles Omenihu. And since he's been back, the pass rush has looked competent. Still not where I would like it. I'm not necessarily still satisfied with it.
Day by day.
Joshua Uche can still help this pass rush.
Hey.
Even though they won't allow him to.
Break the glass.
He can still help it.
We're going to break the glass.
Charles Omenihu, excellent job. You got to tip your cap to that kid. He's come back and played extremely well from that ACL injury, which is not a given. It was not a given for him to just hit the ground running immediately, but he has, and he's been a big factor from that standpoint too.
Mm-hmm. Josh Uze, break the glasses, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget, if it gets dark, they're gonna bring them
glasses of whatever NASA uses apparently, because they ain't
bulletproof. They ain't ever touching on.
It's awful. So this one, Nick Chubb ends up getting stripped by Leo Chanel, punching the ball out. Got to give a lot of credit by Leo, and he does a good job kind of tracking his backside, not really giving up on the play. Obviously ran a little bit initially, and he's kind of stuck a little bit off the play fake, just making sure that Jameis isn't trying to roll out or anything like that. Tracks it down, and this is again a little bit of being opportune that leads to defensive plays being made. You got to actually hunt these things. And I think that generally speaking, they try and strip the ball. We've seen obviously in training camp them work on a lot, but they haven't been able to create a lot of takeaways because they don't try to take advantage of these opportunities where one guy is making that initial tackle and making that initial hit, and then another guy kind of comes in late and tries to punch the ball out. And obviously Dana kind of has him, by the feet here, and Leo just comes in and is able to make that big punch. And shout out to Leo for being aware, and they're able to recover that fumble. I don't think there's anything much else from that standpoint, but got to give the defense credit for getting this stripped from that standpoint too.
Yeah, a peanut punch, man. Peanut Tillman made a career out of doing that. It's great to see. Great to see this defense be aware of trying to at least get the ball out. That's why I said I'm hoping this is a moment in time where they get hot and turnovers, like I said, turnovers and sacks come in bunches. Mm-hmm. And I hope that they're getting to that point now, especially with how the secondary played as well too, and them being able to get make some plays back there. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, it's Jameis Winston, you should have expected that or whatever." But that can be true, but at the same time, it's on you to go out there and actually be in position to make those plays. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the question that I would have from this standpoint, are you guys confident that what you've seen from this defense recently, and we're taking a possible Jalen Watson return out of it, we saw him working out, obviously posted a picture on Instagram. Are you confident that this team moving forward, no Uche, let's say no Steven Nelson, can continue this run of success? Because recently they've played a lot better than they did kind of post Watson injury, obviously up into the Bills game from that standpoint, before they got a menu back. Do you think that this is a recipe that could still continue to work for this team?
Yeah.
For the time being, yeah. Because this week you see, obviously, a good receiver in tandem in Nico Collins and Tank Dell. But like we stated earlier, this is an offensive line that can be had. And granted, our defensive line has struggled, but this may be the turning point for them. But given the fact of, ironically, last year, I think Jawan Taylor was top in the league in penalties for our offensive lineman. Laramie Tunsil was number one this year, ironically, after he got paid from the Texans. So I think this is a good matchup for us this week to take advantage of the mistakes this offensive line has made. They're definitely a solid group, not amazing, but they've made their mistakes just like we have. So I think it's an opportunity for us to use some of our blitzes, force CJ into some mistakes. This offense is prone to when they get behind, they don't necessarily like playing in that position, to have to come back and throw the ball at a high volume, because I don't think their O-line is equipped to throw the ball that many times. At least you'll probably force CJ or the receivers into a mistake, and they'll give you a chance to get sacks and get turnovers as well. So I like the matchup for it this week, given the fact how our D-line has played. Anytime you have a motivated Chris Jones and Charles Omenihu in his mode right now, I like that matchup for us. I think this is a good opportunity for us to go out there and dominate. And I think our corners are getting better slowly, day by day, week by week. I think it's going to be a big week for us for sure. And I believe Dalton Schultz is out. Definitely double check on that, but I'm pretty sure he's out this week. So there's going to be a lot of Jaden Hicks now, because we know Chamari got a concussion. So they're probably going to hold him back until the Steelers game, if not the Broncos game, until the playoffs. So we get to see a lot more 21. We've been wanting for that. This is his moment. I think he'll be ready and kind of build on the interception and the turnovers he's been getting so far this year. So I think it's a good matchup for us, honestly.
Dalton Schultz should be fine. I think
you think? I know they say he's dealing with an injury. I wouldn't know if he was not playing or he's playing. Snap count or whatever.
Seems like he played all last week, so it seems like, and I don't see anything on the injury, so I think he's
okay.
Yeah, I think the defense is fine. I think the defense is fine. I think that it's something that can kind of duplicate, especially this week. I think it's a good matchup for them, like CJ said, a good test as far as the secondary to go up against a good receiving core, and them having Nico Collins and Tank Dell. Um, so I think it's a good challenge for them to see where they are at. I think as long as this front seven plays to an even higher standard than the secondary, I think that they can carry them a long way. I think both of those things work hand in hand, but I think the front seven has to play at a very high standard for this defense to be successful. And if they do that, I think they'll find themselves in New Orleans this year.
Yeah, I completely understand it. No, look, this has been a team that's been top 5 as far as defense is concerned, which, sounds kind of crazy to say that given their up and down nature, but they're top 5 in points allowed right now. And that's just the reality of the situation. And some of that is obviously the limitations on drives that they faced, as far as the offense and the way that it operates. But hey, Texans offensive line is weak, and we'll get into this matchup from this standpoint. We'll see if they can continue to have success, obviously, given CJ Stroud's weaknesses as well. No, Steven Nelson is not going to play. He's still working back, and he also said he's not going to be back until Christmas at the earliest. So we'll see. Andy also seemed kind of on it as far as kind of lukewarm from that standpoint too. So we'll see from that standpoint. To Steven Nelson also seems like he's going to end up being Joshua Uche kind of break class in case of emergency situation, if you listen to kind of the quotes that Steve Spagnuolo had about him too. So we'll see if he ends up getting out there. I doubt it. So we'll see. I think the defense success is something that can move forward, and this is something similar to our discussions early, kind of midway through the season, especially post Watson injury, that the secondary is the secondary and it has its weaknesses, but the reality of the situation is if the defensive line is doing its job, then the secondary isn't going to be exposed nearly as much. And you see the injection of pass rush that Charles Menu brings back allows them to be able to be better in the secondary. There's a stat floating around from PFF about lockdown percentage. I don't know how they do it. They determine it. It's just about how close the cornerback is on a consistent basis to the wide receiver that they're guarding. Again, don't know how they do it. They haven't explained the methodology, but that's just the reality of it. Trent McDuffie is number 1 in the National Football League for the entirety of the season. But this week specifically, he was number 1. The guy right behind him was Najee Johnson as far as lockdown percentage is concerned. And again, you can get good play out of these guys, whether it's Najee, whether it's Joshua Williams. We talk about the safeties as well. Ultimately, if the defensive line is doing its job, they harassed Jameis Winston on Sunday, and they got the results necessary to get the job done. Last thing to ask before we get into the matchup with the Chiefs and the Texans specifically. Passing game with Hollywood Brown. Hollywood Brown did have a full participant in practice, and as CJ laid out earlier, light practice, so, take it for what it is. But Hollywood Brown being injected back into this offense. We've seen some of the struggles, obviously, going down the field. We've seen them struggle running the ball from that standpoint. How do you guys feel about where the passing game is right now as it pertains to Patrick Mahomes' injury aside, but being able to pass protect, adding Hollywood Brown back for limited snaps as you try and get him ramped up ready for the playoffs, and if you think that it's in the place that it needs to be to get ready to win some of these playoff games? Obviously, down the stretch, you're going to be facing exclusively playoff teams needing 2 wins to secure this 1 seed to end the season.
Yeah, I think getting Hollywood back obviously gives them a guy that can help in an area that I feel like they've been kind of struggling with, and that's beating man coverage to this point. I just think he provides that element to be able to beat certain guys off the line. Something that I know that they kind of brought DeAndre Hopkins in here for, but I think it's at a rate where they want to kind of keep his snaps down too, to make sure that they get him to the playoffs, healthy as well. And I think Xavier Worthy has done a great job of showing you that he can beat man coverage, but unfortunately your line doesn't help when you have your best you have your deep threat trying to get open. Point of time, it takes a little bit of time for those routes to develop. So getting Hollywood Brown back, I feel like it's getting a guy that I think can come in and be able to get open quickly, and then have that same kind of explosion in the offense that Xavier Worthy provides you. I think it makes him a lot tougher to game plan for to this point, just with having that amount of speed on the field, but as well as having the awareness to beat man coverage. So I'm glad he's coming back. Hopefully he can get it ramped up pretty quickly here. Wasn't one of those injuries that I felt like is gonna really hold him back. It's just probably more so of just being protective of how he kind of plays. But if he's ready to go and ready to roll, I'm ready to see him out there.
Absolutely. Anything he can give us is definitely going to help, whether it be situational, which I think will probably be more of a realistic situation. He's not going to play really whole dry, so probably only play obvious passing situations. So third down, second and long situation where we have to go out there and throw the ball. So, and I think as they ramp him up, these next 3 weeks are crucial for him. Obviously, we were all eyeing the Christmas game as the day being back. So if they give him a good week of practice, he was a full go today. And everything is trending toward the right way and no setbacks, especially with the shoulder, and he's ready to go on Saturday, then, hey, he'll be here earlier than expected. So these 3 games are big for Hollywood. I know he wants to get back in rhythm with Pat. I know he's probably doing the best he can to get as many reps and as many throws as he can with Pat pre or post practice, which is kind of tough because Pat's trying to obviously rehab as much as he can. So whether it be working with Carson, working with timing with the coaches, and obviously trying to get in rhythm with the offense, because it's one thing to watch and pay attention verbally and obviously hearing the plays. It's another thing to go out there and run them. So he hasn't played a real football snap since obviously when he tore his shoulder in the Jacksonville preseason game. So it's been a long time since Hollywood's been on the football field for live contact. So I'm sure he's itching to get back out there, but I'm sure they'll make it easy on him, give him a small package, nothing too crazy, maybe some deep overs, maybe some speed outs, some stuff where he can just catch the ball and make plays and get up the field, but nothing really too extraneous. Even though it's not really a leg injury, he had a shoulder injury, so I'm sure his wind and conditioning are up to the best of their capables, but obviously football shape and running around shape is different. So he's going to have to definitely get his timing back down before anything, but anything he can give us will help, whether it be all the routes that I would like to see him run. Obviously we have our man beaters with Zay, but outside of Zay, we really don't have too many guys that can get open as far as like an option route or running a speed out, running a deep comeback, and to make guys separate and get separation and get an open window for Pat. So this is a good opportunity for Hollywood, because I believe we have all of our positions filled. We have our possession receivers with Trav, D-Hop, and Noah. We have our speed guy with Zay, and hopefully Hollywood can come back and kind of be our in-between guy who can do possession and getting open and be a separator for us. So I'm excited to see anything he can do, whether it be 2 or 3 catches, just to see him just get a hit, take a hit, pop back up, and just to get that feeling back of playing football again. So I think anything Hollywood gives us this week will be a bonus, and I'm more excited to see how they build on this to get ready for the playoffs for sure, because I think he can make our offense naturally good and what it was supposed to be beginning of the season before all the injuries occurred.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where you want to see some of that, chemistry develop on a consistent basis with Hollywood Brown. The same way that we've seen recently, Xavier Worthy really pick up in the ways in which they've used him in a variety of different ways to continue to move the ball down the field. Same with DeAndre Hopkins, connection and timing with Patrick Mahomes has continued to improve as well. Hollywood Brown bringing that man-beating element to it. He was one of the 30 best wide receivers in the National Football League last year as far as yards per route run as well. And that was dealing with, backup quarterbacks for the majority of the season out there in Arizona. Him bringing that element in which you already know you have the zone-bidding element of Travis Kelce and DeAndre Hopkins and the speed element down the field of Xavier Worthy. It just is that last little bit that I feel like this passing game is going to need. DJ Humphries at left tackle, I think, is probably going to be the guy moving forward. We'll see if he's back with the hamstring. Obviously, he did not practice today specifically, but regardless, when you feel like the games are going to count the most, will be out there. I think this team will be in a good place as far as the passing game is concerned. Maybe not satisfied yet. I'm probably satisfied because I think I've seen enough from Xavier Worthy and DeAndre Hopkins to make me confident in what it's going to look like, especially when you add Hollywood Brown back into this team from that aspect. That being said, we do have a playoff team, AFC playoff team in the Houston Texans coming to Arrowhead on Saturday. They've got a pretty big game. Obviously, the Chiefs want to stay ahead of the Buffalo Bills from that standpoint. This is something that we're going to assume that Patrick Mahomes is playing, even though we talked a little bit about what the offense would look like as far as Carson Wentz. DG and CJ, what are you guys going to be looking for when the Chiefs offense is facing off against the Texans defense?
My main thing is just seeing what identity this Chiefs team is going to carry into this game, and I guess down the foreseeable future, now that you're getting to really meaningful games, these are all playoff teams, and now you have something really on the line to play for in that one seed. So I just want to see them be a little bit more adamant about tapping into their identity that works. I feel like that works best for them with the personnel that they have at this point in time. Run the ball effectively. Get underneath center. If you want to create explosive plays, get underneath center. Play action off of it. Give me a little bit of that instead of the drop back 15,000 times and shotgun draws or whatever. So I think if they can get back to that, especially against this defense, who's obviously one of the better pass rushing defenses in this league, I think the one way to kind of slow that down is to be able to run the ball effectively, chew clock, and don't turn it over, which I think Chiefs offense, these last couple of weeks has done a very good job of not, limiting the turnovers, not giving the ball back. So I think they got to kind of carry that into this game, and if they do that, I feel like they can be really successful against this Texas defense. But they got their work cut out for them. It's a tough defense for sure.
It's gonna be a hell of a challenge for them up front, but everything that we've asked this offense to do, they've done it at times, just haven't done it in spurts or a long period of time. And obviously, there's no better time than the present. For some reason, this team just, when the lights are at its brightest and your back's against the wall and you have to have it, that's when this team tends to show up. And I think they do that this week. I kind of compared this situation, like I said earlier, to our Cincinnati game last year, coming off a bad loss versus the Raiders. There was kind of no looking back. As the rest of our season is here in front of us. These are the players we have. This is what we do well. This is what we don't do well. How are you going to work with the pieces that you have? And I think coming into that game, we kind of ran the game plan that DG just said, run the football, keep shorten the game, win time of possession, which we did very well for the first 2 months of the season. I think obviously lean on your running backs. You have Pacheco and Kareem outside of, unfortunately, David Montgomery went down with an injury. That was the best running back tandem I had going into the playoffs. And with Kareem and Pacheco, I believe they can be the second best tandem going into January now if you just use them and lean on them. And we kind of saw a little glimpse of those things in Cleveland. When you have to tackle Pacheco for a whole drive, and then you have to turn him right back around, then you got to deal with Kareem Hunt, who for some reason always falls forward for first downs. That's a lot to wear on a defense, and you can wear them out. And now that their linebacking depth has been a little tested this year due to injuries and off-the-field things with Houston. So you can lean on that part of your offense, run the football, and that'll open up the play-action game like DMac said earlier. So everything in this offense is in front of them. Everything they want to do is capable. They know what the weaknesses are. And I think this is the time we actually see the best offense that we probably have seen all year. I think we start to get closer and closer to the version of ourselves that we can be, to DG's point. So there's no better time than the present. There's no time to look back. And when we're in our 12 personnel, when we're in our 10 personnel or 11, I just want to see us be physical and run the football. And I think when we do that, that's when this team is at their best. And we have the running backs and the horses up front, interior O-line to do so. So I think there's no better time than to bring that offense out now. I know they've been kind of waiting on it, and people don't believe it. I'm hearing the Andy's washed, all the narratives that are out there right now. So usually when this team is doubted is when they play their best football. So when you get under center and we run the football and we play action, and 15 gets the ball out of his hands and we get the ball into the flat, stretch the field and the defense all 53.5 yards wide and make the defense respect us horizontally as well as vertically, you have one of the fastest guys in the NFL, and Xavier Worthy. We did not have him at this point last year. That's why I'm much more confident, and we're adding guys like Hollywood Brown back to the mix. So everything this offense wants to do from a run game and passing game standpoint is available. They just have to commit to it. So this is the week I think they finally do it.
Lord willing that we actually see them be able to do so. So this is a good Texans defense that they're going to be going up against, to say the least. The Texans, I think third in points to this point. They have the ability to get after the passer. Obviously, Daniil Hunter, and oh my God, Will Anderson just jumped out of my head. I apologize. And Will Anderson, extremely good off the edge. D'Amico Ryans has the team playing, kind of like with that old San Francisco 49ers mentality where it's like we are trying to come after you every single down and not give you a break or any type of a breather from that standpoint. They fly to the ball on a consistent basis. And from that standpoint, it makes it really hard on teams to go ahead and deal with them. They're a little bit more susceptible to the rush than they are versus the pass. Again, this is where the Chiefs staying ahead of schedule, not allowing them to get them behind the sticks. This is still a very good Texans defense as far as making sure teams don't get ahead of schedule or stay ahead of the sticks as well. Then a good job at getting them into disadvantageous situations on third downs. And they've been able to take advantage of that as well. They've been one of the best defenses on third downs too. So the Chiefs offense has their work cut out for them. And it's, no small thing or definitely left unsaid. They will have to bring a much better effort than they did versus the Browns. They have to bring a much better effort really than they have the last few weeks at this point. They have to run the ball effectively on a consistent basis, and they're going to have to, be very efficient in their passing game to allow themselves to. Because if they get into a drop back game versus the Texans defense, it's not going to end well from that standpoint too. So flipping sides, as far as the Chiefs defense versus the Texans offense right now, this kind of comes down to, can you affect CJ Stroud and take advantage of the holes in the Texans offensive line? Defensive line for the Chiefs, again, Charles Menu coming back, better pass rush. This Texans offensive line has been porous to say the least. Can you create sim pressures, blitz looks, obviously Spagnuolo's Rolodex, be able to get after CJ Stroud on a consistent basis, not allow them to run the ball effectively with Joe Mixon, of course, which they've done a good job consistently. The Chiefs defense has the entirety of the year of being able to shut down the run, especially from the running back perspective. Can you have that success for CJ Stroud on late downs that a lot of other defenses had? If you're able to do so, then I think that you have a good chance versus the Texans defense. Of course, that all comes down to the big matchup from the standpoint. This passing game goes through Nico Collins. That is a big physical wide receiver on the outside. That is something that the Chiefs have struggled with as well. Even their best corner obviously struggles with that at times too. What is the matchup going to look like versus Nico? Can you affect the line of scrimmage to make it so that, whatever that matchup even looks like doesn't necessarily factor in as well? DG and CJ, how do you guys feel about the Chiefs defense versus this Texans offense?
From a secondary standpoint, obviously, you have your work cut out for you. Tank Dell and Nico present a lot of problems. I think their offensive line is the weakness of the offense that you try to attack. So definitely try to simulate pressures, do some stunts, some gap moves, and try to do some twists and confuse the offensive line because they've been susceptible to giving up a lot of pressures on CJ. And obviously, Slowick and CJ have struggled to be on the same page a lot this year. I think outside of Joe Mixon, who's the MVP of that team for me, that's really the only thing on their offense that's really been consistent outside of the deep ball to Nico. Which obviously is easier said than done to take that away. But the way you do that is stopping the run on first and second down and giving yourself the opportunity to rush this offensive line and get some pressures on CJ in third and fourth down. Obviously, CJ is not crazy athletic. He's not going to run away from you. We know usually the quarterbacks that give us the biggest issues are guys usually Josh Allen's, Lamar Jackson's, and obviously CJ's not the fastest guy in the world, but he can extend plays if given the opportunity. So Tank Dell's a hell of a receiver. Obviously Nico Collins is one of the best in the league. I think he was top 5 in receiving yards before he went down. He was having an incredible year. I think he's been averaging like a 20, 30-yard catch almost every game. So the safeties are going to definitely have their work cut out for him because CJ will put it up. He's going to give him an opportunity to make a play. So the best thing for us is to contain Joe Mixon, force them to run the football and get the stops up front. Then we'll try to hold up our end on the back end on second and third down. So it's going to be a tough task, but I think we can do so if we kind of get them behind the sticks early and get them frustrated like their offenses tend to do. So CJ Stroud's first time in Kansas City. So obviously a lot of crowd noise adjustment for him. Obviously he played at Ohio State, so he's used to loud stadiums, but we know Arrowhead's a one-of-one experience. So let's try to get them behind the sticks, take care of this offensive line, and keep them behind the sticks, keep those mistakes and those penalties going for them. I believe the Texans are top in the league in penalties as a team, I believe, or if I'm not mistaken, I think it's them or Baltimore, I believe. One of them is like top in the league in penalties. But yeah, I think this is a great opportunity for our defense to dominate, especially up front, because our backing is going to have their workout cut out for them. So we're going to have to definitely send a lot of pressures and get some sacks and get some pressure on CJ because they got a lot of weapons to throw the ball to for sure.
We got our old friend Carl Sheffers coming in this week.
Old Sheffers. We knew he was coming eventually.
Ahead, DG.
We knew he was popping up eventually.
I agree with all CJ's points. I think this game on the defensive side is one up front. If this defensive line can be disruptive against a bad offensive line to this point, I think that's going to be the biggest factor in it at this point. Charles Omenihu, Curtis Jones, George Karlaftis, Mike Dana, FAU. We need all those guys to show back up the same way they did in Cleveland.
And if you can disrupt the timing of this offense, especially with some of those explosive plays that they like to try to get, I think that you can come out of this game with a win. So yeah, stop Joe Mixon. First and second downs. Um, Earn the right to pass rush, and when you pass rush, rush with integrity and get home. I think that there can be some points and times where also Spags can kind of afford to dial some things up. Maybe use a little bit of CJ's Stroud's inexperience against him, uh, especially on the road in an environment like Arrowhead where it's loud and it might be a little bit tough to communicate at points in time. So yeah, I think it's real simple. Just win the line of scrimmage up front and everything in the back end will take care of itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, dome team. Yeah, that too. Dome team in cold weather. I don't know how cold it's going to be Sunday, but
It's supposed to be in the 30s, so hopefully
hopefully
take
that's
advantage of it.
yeah.
It's going to drop, so we'll see.
Yeah. So obviously, tough challenge coming in here from the standpoint of the Texans on the back end can take advantage of some things because of Nico Collins, but you handle your business up front. I think it'll be a day that you can take advantage of. So let's get to the X factor and game predictions for the Chiefs versus Texans. I'll start out from the standpoint of I think X factor on defense. I think it's Tershawn Ward. I think he'll have some opportunities to rush against what is an extremely weak interior offensive line for the Texans, creating those one-on-one matchups. We know about Charles Omenihu. We know about George Kalafdis. We know about Chris Jones, obviously. If he can have an impact like we saw earlier on in the season, specifically in this bad of a matchup, then I think that really can turn up the pressure on CJ Stroud to 100. If you're able to do that, then you can kind of mitigate what the back end looks like as far as the Nico Collins matchup is concerned. On defense, I should say on the Chiefs offense, look, it's difficult. The Texans defense, it can match up a lot of different ways. There are aspects of their linebacking core that this week, obviously, they're missing Azeez Al-Shaair. I'd love to tell you that the entirety of the run game is really an X factor because if they can run the ball, then things actually set up well. We'll see that. That kind of remains to be seen right now. To me, this is a Noah Gray game. I think that you can take advantage of some things in the middle of the field. They're going to be missing Jalen Petrie, who is a really key piece for their secondary as well. Played very well in kind of a nickel safety role as well. We know Derek Stingley's really good on the outside, so it's going to be interesting to see what the matchups look like. To me, you can get after him with Noah Gray if you're able to run the ball effectively, set up some of those play action ability. I don't think this is necessarily the defense you want to try and attack deep. They've been pretty good against explosive plays. I think you want to try and stay in the middle of the field, really get some of those secure catches as well. So those are my two X factors, Tershawn Ward and Noah Gray from that standpoint. And I'm going to guess this is a lower scoring type of game. I'm going to go Chiefs 20, Texans 17.
I'll say my X factors for the game probably be Charles Omenihu. Defensive side of the ball. I think this is a game, especially if their line is struggling, where he can, wreak havoc for that defensive line. Offensively, I probably would have to say I think this is probably the time where you might want to think about getting Kareem a little bit more involved and running the ball and kind of leaning on him a little bit more. I know they've been giving him some weeks off and with downplaying his snaps a little bit with Isaiah coming back, but I think this is a point in time, especially last week, where you're seeing that when they line up and go underneath center and hand it off to Kareem, he has the vision and the skills to get through the hole and create some big yardage downfield. May not have the same explosion, but continuously be able to pick up first downs or get to 4 or 5 yards carry at a time. So I think that can be really effective for the Chiefs if they try to stick to that plan. Hopefully they do. But, I'm not going to bank on it or wish on it or anything like that. So we all heard CJ say they like experimenting. So, hopefully this is not one of those games where they decide to do that. But, I fully expect them to. Score prediction think it's probably low scoring ish. So I'll say Chiefs win 23-20.
X factor for me is definitely George Karlaftis. This is an offensive line that's been weak, to say the least. They've obviously given up a lot of big plays. George is coming off 2 big weeks. He's gotten pressures back-to-back weeks and gotten either half a sack or getting a whole sack. So I think this is a time where he starts to get rolling and get his engine turned on and get revved up for the playoffs. So he is my defensive X factor. Offensive X factor would definitely be Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco, our whole backfield. This is the time when we need to run on the football and lean on this run game. This run game is obviously really good. When they give these guys the ball, they are definitely heavy-handed. These are guys that usually fall forward for first downs, especially Kareem Hunt. So definitely lean on him and Pacheco and give these guys the necessary touches, whether it be toss, power, gap schemes, getting them on the edge when we want to do our zone schemes, and getting involved in the screen game as well. They both can catch the ball at an extremely well level. So I'm super excited about this run game for the playoffs. I think that can carry us to January and get us to New Orleans. So my score prediction will be Chiefs 24, Texans 20.
I just want to say, insane first sentence here. Insanity.
Yeah, scratch. No,
Sir,
no,
crazy first sentence.
No, Diddy, scratch. You can't say that, bro. You got to revise that.
Wild first sentence right there.
Wild. You got. Did you read that when you typed that? Jesus Lord.
Crazy sentence right there.
Definitely can't say that. Definitely can't say that.
But yeah, I think we're all in agreement that it's probably going to be a little bit of a lower scoring game. Better defenses on both sides of the ball than offenses at this point. And hopefully a Patrick Mahomes will be able to go out there and have himself a good day. Oh my goodness.
I just reread
on
it.
Saturday.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like bro, that crazy on the.
You can't say that.
You gotta rephrase that, brother. That's wow.
Oh God,
Oh.
Scratch, buddy, bro. Scratch had the moment of the year. Jesus Christ, Scratch.
Oh boy,
Oh boy,
that's a crazy.
God is good
all the time. Lord Jesus. Oh God.
Okay. Moving on to the Week 15 power rankings. So obviously around the National Football League, 2 big games: Philadelphia versus Pittsburgh. In Philadelphia, Eagles are end up taking care of business with sassy Jalen Hurts at the press conference telling everybody if that's what they were looking for as far as the passing game is concerned. We got obviously the Bills and Lions in Detroit. Bills go in, take care of business, start fast, and are able to kind of just stay out ahead throughout the entirety of the game, as the Lions' defensive injuries seem to have really caught up to them. They're just struggling really to keep it together on that side of the field, and the Bills were able to take pretty good advantage of it. So last week we had the Lions at number 1, Eagles at number 2, Bills at 3, Chiefs at 4, and Steelers at 5. How do you guys want to try and order this from the standpoint? To me, I kind of say I think the Eagles probably stay at number 2. I think we can put the Bills 1 after beating the Lions from that standpoint. I think the Chiefs should be 3. That would be how I'd look at the top 3 personally.
Cool with me.
good with me, man.
So as far as the number 4 team, are we doing Lions? Are we doing Steelers? Are we moving the Ravens up after destroying the Giants?
Raven. Oh, you mean the best team in the league? With the
Yeah. By the way, according to DVOA, the Ravens are the best team in the National Football League right now at 9-5.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
They obviously have the best quarterback in the league too. That's what I've been told.
Well, no, that depends on who you ask. Because if you ask another
They say
person,
in
Josh
January
Allen,
he's not the best.
if you ask another person, it's Joe Burrow. So it
That's
depends on
not-
who you ask.
They
That's
say
that's not what their fans told me.
they told me in January he's not the
Their
best.
fans
DT.
told me different. They said
January.
Lamar Jackson is the best quarterback in the
They
league.
say in January he's not the same
Who's-
guy.
Who's doing anything like him right now?
Okay.
Me personally, I think that Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson both having great seasons. I think Joe Burrow is having a great season too. But Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the National Football League because these things aren't determined in December. They determined in January and February.
If it was a September contest, DG, they would have already gave out the MVP, huh?
Their fans told me
Lamar Jackson is the best quarterback in the league.
Okay.
There's nobody else doing it like him, DMac. Nobody else. You know,
Okay.
not Joe Burrow, not Josh Allen, none of them. They're not Lamar Jackson. They can't be 8. It's unbeatable. Man, he's best team in the league. That's what it is.
Y'all think when Michael Jordan was winning championships and he didn't win MVP a few years that people were like, yeah, Michael Jordan, not the best player in the world. No.
He
It's Michael Jordan,
sucks.
'cause he keeps
He's
winning them
terrible. He's the worst.
championships.
I don't even know why he's on the
Yeah,
court
that's it.
anymore.
All right. Ravens, Steelers, Ravens, Steelers, Lions. How do we want to order them? 4, 5, 6. I think that.
I'll say Lions. Lions.
I mean, do you guys want to put the Vikings over one of those teams too? I will say that because I think they deserve it. No, okay. Ravens, Steelers.
Too much dip on your
Lions.
chip, brother. Too much dip on your chip.
Ravens. Yeah, Lions, Ravens.
Lions, Ravens, yeah.
Lions, Ravens, Steelers. You want to go?
Yeah.
Okay. Are we getting Ravens, Steelers next week?
Yep. Or no, Saturday, yeah.
Saturday? Yeah. It's going to be a lot of fun to see because obviously they
Hopefully TJ Watt plays, but they'll probably sit him out to play against us.
Best quarterback in the league will be on the field.
Against his kryptonite. He does not play well versus the
I don't
Steelers
get it.
at all.
He does not. And at home or in Pittsburgh, doesn't matter. They have TJ Watt not being on the field will give him a lot of confidence. But naturally, he does struggle versus Pittsburgh. So, but I got Baltimore winning. I don't think they get swept by Pittsburgh. I got Baltimore winning this weekend. So
we're gonna have to see. He does not play well versus Pittsburgh. So last week we did have the Vikings, Broncos, Chargers, and Packers at 7 through 10. Packers to me had a really impressive win. The Vikings, they kind of took care of business yesterday versus the Bears. It did really impressive to me. I'm willing to move the Packers up to 10, or to 7, I should say. How do you guys feel about obviously Vikings, Broncos, Chargers, Packers? Throw the Buccaneers in there, I suppose. Who do you guys feel like we should get in there?
I'm cool with them moving up.
Yeah.
Packers. They had a good dominant win.
Yeah, and I think they're getting hot at the right time.
Absolutely. And Detroit's going the opposite way, so that kind of.
A lot of people want to say, "Oh, yeah, they're not that good of a team," and why do people talk about the Packers so much and stuff like that. I think the only team that's been able to really get them has been Detroit.
And they beat Detroit last year, so it's not like they can't beat them.
Yeah, they can. Yeah, so
they can beat them. This team is capable of beating anybody in the NFC. That's why when they were all going on that rampage in Sports After Dark after the Lions games, they can't beat the serious teams. Like, yes, they can. They can beat any of them. Not saying they're going to the Super Bowl, but if any team in the NFC is capable of beating any other teams, Green Bay's in that conversation. It would not shock me at all if we saw them playing on NFC Championship Sunday at all. They're a good football team. They can run the football. They've been doing this without their number one corner, and Jair Alexander. They have a lot of receivers to get the ball to. Jordan Love is not turning the ball over. That's a good football team. So they're going to be a tough out for anybody.
Yep, won't get any argument from me as well. They went into Seattle and handled business, to say the least. And I think that they are one of 5 contenders in the entirety of the NFL to actually be in the Super Bowl from that standpoint. I truly do believe that. So Packers go up to 7. Vikings. I mean, how do we feel about the Vikings, Chargers, and Broncos? I'll be honest with you guys. I'm not all that inclined to put anybody else into this conversation as far as this right now. Like Buccaneers, and I'm definitely not putting the Falcons in there. The Rams, impressive performances. I don't know if you guys really feel all that inclined, but right now I'm good. And not the Commanders either. They really surprised versus the Saints.
Whatever is clever.
Yeah.
I'm cool.
Yeah, I think 8, 9, and 10 is kind of.
We'll move the Vikings down 1. We'll leave the Broncos there at 9, and we'll put the Chargers there at 10. To wrap up this week's NFL Power Rankings, Bills get the gold star for their big win in Detroit. Eagles win their game over the Steelers. Chiefs move up to 3 with their blowout of the Browns. Lions, Ravens, Steelers. Big matchup between the Ravens and Steelers coming up. Packers at 7, Vikings, Broncos, and Chargers to round out that top 10. So as far as that's concerned, only one thing to kind of look at we are having a little bit from the standpoint. We can answer this question as well. I would say this. Based on what Steve Spagnuolo said, I would not expect that. No.
Out snapping? No. Will he probably play? Yes.
Play? Yes.
Out snapping is crazy. I don't know how you can out snap someone.
We thought Josh Uche would play too.
Well, we didn't think he was going to out snap nobody. We thought he would play, yes.
Well, no, I thought he was going to play, but he's not. He's inactive.
I'm shocked to see him not getting no snaps at all. So, but like we said, there's a lot of guys in front of him that maybe they just don't think he's better than. So
I do think they get Nelson on the field. I don't know if he out snaps those guys, but I do think it comes down to a point where he does play some. So
eventually, yeah, Stevie's eventually going to play, and he's been productive recently. Obviously, when guys going down with injury, I think the more we can get Stevie Nelson on the field in a limited capacity will definitely help us out in any manner, especially given the fact that Shamari can be out for a while. So this is a red alert to, hey, we need to put Trent in the slot more. We need his veteran leadership in there, and hopefully Stevie can give us some solid reps outside and definitely put him in some off coverage until we see what he hit those see what his physical standards is like. He hasn't played football all training camp all season. So to come off the couch and have to play high level football is gonna be interesting. So it's definitely gonna be interesting to see what he can do. And thankfully we don't have as many outside of the Texans week, which is ironic because he played for them. We play the Steelers next week. They're not I know George Pickens has been in and out the lineup, so their receivers really aren't as explosive as the ones we'll see this week. So I would love to see Stevie play Pittsburgh week if we're going to introduce him. I would think that would be a good week for him to get on the field and try to make some plays.
Yeah. Again, he's not playing. I'm playing until Christmas, so we'll take that for what it is.
See what happens.
But I did want to at least bring this up just because it is relevant from the standpoint of this. This is a quote that Steve Spagnuolo gave when asked about Steven Nelson, and shout out to Matt Connor over there at Arrowhead for being able to put this out here. But he said, I talked to him about, I don't know how it all transpired. And he's talking about Brett Veach acquiring Steven Nelson. He's saying he kind of researched it, developed, and he made a decision to give it a shot. So we'll see where it goes. And he talked about it being ground level. So to me, that reads as a defensive coordinator that doesn't have really any plans to implement this player into his scheme. And honestly, based on how things have gone with Josh Uche, based on how things went with Cam Thomas, I'm not expecting him to play. So we'll see if it happens, but I wouldn't expect him to play personally. And I'll, if it happens, then I'll say I was wrong about that reading into it. Also, the Lions, I mean, they've gone through so many injuries, man. It's just
too much. Montgomery's out for the year. Yeah,
for the year it's tough enough, but their defense has been just ravaged. It's been kind of crazy from that standpoint. Like I do actually feel bad. I feel bad for their fans, honestly, because this was set up to be a really special year for them, and
can't do it.
Injuries have just been terrible from that.
If they play Green Bay right now, Green Bay would beat them. If they had a rematch right now, Green Bay would get them. Naturally, you're not going to beat anyone 3 times in a regular season, but even before the fact, they're just not healthy enough to beat any of those good playoff teams in the NFC right now. It just sucks.
Yeah, you can't afford to lose your all-pro edge rusher, your CB1, your
LB1, LB2, LB3.
Yeah, running back 1 as well.
1A.
Yes, it's getting to that point where it's
getting
starting to become too much. And unfortunately, I think that, for the Chiefs, it's different. I know people say, well, Chiefs have done all that. They have Patrick Mahomes. You have best quarterback, in my opinion, in the league. So I think he can mask some of those deficiencies. I'm not sure Jared Goff can do that for you. I think once you put the ball in his hands or whatever, I think he can make plays at points and times, but I don't see him being able to overcome those kinds of injuries.
Yeah. So that being said, we do have one team to lay to rest. And I'd like to just say I'm disappointed in you guys. I thought you guys could be better this year. And it's upsetting to me. But the way in which you specifically imploded on Sunday, you earned this. And unfortunately, it comes down to what is probably the best or maybe the second best player on the entirety of the team. Inexcusable outcome here.
Bro, this was funny. This was hilarious. This was funny.
So, and I do want to actually, just so you guys have the full context,
This boy ran.
Colts
all the
are
way
up
down.
13-7 here in the third quarter with
Oh,
12
God.
minutes and 43 seconds left when this play is happening.
Jesus, they could have
Jonathan Taylor breaks free. Great run. Approaching the goal line, has the opportunity, and just decides to
God. 20-7 is a completely different ball game, bro.
You know,
Completely different.
it hurts even more when you have Jonathan Taylor as your starting running back in fantasy playoffs.
Boy, oh boy.
And you lose by, I think I lost by 17 points.
This could have been that play right there. That's like a 50-yard run with a touchdown.
Yeah,
that's 11 points right there.
Yeah. Him and Brock Purdy can both go to hell.
I know. I saw some tickets with Jonathan Taylor ATD, and that was the last leg. Boy, oh boy, I don't even want to know what his DMs look like. I know they something crazy. I know they are.
This right here, this
boy,
50-yard run, this 50-yard run from this moment right here. 12 minutes left to go in the third quarter. The Colts went from up 6, possibly to go up 20-7 in this game. They were outscored 24-0 from this point forward.
Jesus Lord.
31-13.
That took all the momentum.
That play right there ended the Colts season. And there's no two ways about it. That's just a reality situation.
I don't understand why. Just hold on to the ball.
Why are you in such a rush to drop it?
Why do y'all do that? Cross the play. Like, it's okay to take the ball into the end zone.
I thank God I never did this when I played. I've never understood this.
Bro. I don't get the whole what's
the rush to drop the ball?
What's the rush?
I never understood this.
It's not illegal to carry the ball into the end zone.
Bro, our coach, if you did this, bro, he wouldn't let you touch the ball for like another 2 weeks. If you did this, he literally would bench you up, you're not touching the ball. Like
I can understand it more like if you're in a situation where you're trying to beat a guy to the plane,
hit the pylon type shit.
Yeah, you reach the ball across or
exactly. But this, nobody's around you.
He gets knocked out.
I don't get this, bro.
This is innocent.
Why are people such in a rush to drop the ball? Hold on to the football, bro. It's your job. And even more so for Jonathan Taylor, you're a veteran. You've been in the league, what, 5 years now?
He cost me.
5 years now? Like, you're a veteran. You're the best player on the team. That's the last thing you should be doing is going out there trying to celebrate and dropping the football. That's crazy.
Killed me, Petey. That's what I'm
hold on that ball, Petey.
Yeah, I'm gonna start calling him Petey for the rest of the year. I
still can't believe he did. When I watched this play, bro, I was like, "There's no way Jonathan Taylor dropped the ball." Not Jonathan Taylor, the dude that wanted money that wasn't in camp last year, not the dude who wanted to get a new contract.
Man,
you have a chance to shut everybody up, and look what you did.
Best running backs in the league, huh?
He wanted all his money, and then you do stuff like this. Jim Irsay probably called him all kinds of names. I ain't gonna lie.
Inexcusable right there.
Why are you letting the ball go?
What's in a rush? The rush to drop the ball for what? What's the rush? I don't care.
A half a second from going up 20-7 with the opportunity to win a game over a team that you're trying to chase down here in the playoff picture to getting outscored 24-0 from that point forward and having your season ended. Jonathan Taylor, you have laid the Colts season to rest, as we have to as well.
Wild.
Along those lines, because I do think it is important to say to wrap up here. Some news that did end up coming out, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who was in that Jonathan Taylor draft class, of course, that came with a lot of controversy. CEH was released on Monday as a part of what we think will be a corresponding move to bring Hollywood Brown in. And I'd like to just tip my cap. CEH, a guy that was able to make a lot of plays here, specifically early on in his career before the, kind of the injury started to set in significantly. And it's still possible that CEH is brought back on the practice squad for what it's worth. I do want to give that disclaimer, but it does seem like this is kind of going a certain way. Shout out to the Chiefs for keeping him on the roster, continuing to have him obviously work through his off the field issues as far as mental health, which we do applaud. Obviously his bravery in being able to talk about those things publicly and dealing with those things as well. But I do want to say, it's not his fault that he got picked in the first round. I panned it. I did not like taking a running back in the first round. Definitely not one that's kind of on the diminutive side from that standpoint. But important to say, he was somebody that was performing very well. Prior to that injury against the Saints, he was top 5 in rushing for the entirety of that rookie year. He was performing at a high level. You saw there's a difference between him post that injury and obviously pre that injury. So shout out to you, CEH. We appreciate the good memories that you did give us. And obviously, we wish you the best moving forward from that standpoint as well. So anything else that you guys want to add before we go ahead and get on out of here?
You forgot one person to lay to rest.
Lay to rest.
Big Kirko.
Oh, Kirko.
Kirko
we just got the news, baby.
Come on down, Kirk
Cousins. We just got the news, baby.
Just happened before the show. It just broke. The Michael Penix Jr. era is here in Atlanta.
Hey, Kirk's agent, you the most important person in Atlanta, boy.
And it's gonna cost Atlanta about $100 million.
Boy.
But boy, oh boy, I look. I'm a fan of Kirk Cousins, the person. Kirk Cousins, the quarterback this year, may be cooked.
First half, he was great. He was great first half of the season. He was amazing.
Look, listen, big fella, they gave you life.
They gave you life. Hey, but you got paid though, so I can't get too mad at you.
I would tell you, if Michael Penix leads this team to the playoffs, you can kiss your career in Atlanta goodbye.
But his wife likes it there, so enjoy the season.
Oh, the career is done in Atlanta. Once you make this move, you're not going back. And it was
the ultimate insurance policy. We all knew that. It was a very expensive plan. Arthur Blank got deep pockets, so he don't care.
It's an expensive behind insurance policy for no reason, man.
I wish I had deep pockets like that.
Arthur Blank do. Why you think he got and he got the food affordable at Mercedes-Benz Stadium? He good in my book.
My pocket that he can share some of that with.
Because boy, I'm telling you right now, the way Clark Hunt and Mark Donovan be acting with these prices at Arrowhead, boy, you would have thought we ain't won nothing.
They stingy.
They super stingy. Bro, the Falcons ain't won a goddamn thing. They food so cheap.
No. I don't even think if this comment here, I think it's over. It's over. Michael Penix is the starting quarterback.
No, you knew like, hey, we're gonna have you in here. Eventually, Michael Penix is gonna take over. He's already 24 years old, so he's an older quarterback coming into the league anyway. So his clock has already started. So you had to play him eventually. I didn't want to see Kirko go out like this because the first half of the season he was playing great football. He was leading the division, throwing for 300+ yards. He looked like Kirk Cousins. And then obviously halfway through the season, the age started to show because he hasn't thrown a touchdown. I think one touchdown in the last 5 weeks. That's very alarming. So eventually we knew he was going to take over. Just sucks to see him go out like this because Kirk's been I know we troll him and we make fun of and jokes about Kirk, but he's been a very solid quarterback for the last, almost 10 years now when he came in the league in 2012 after RG3, so the RG3 class. So been in the league a decade, man. He's been a guy, been started, had a lot of big moments, played for 3 franchises now, had some good days, some bad days, but overall he's been a solid quarterback for sure. He's been like an upper half in the league, for my opinion.
Yeah, Cousins won't be our backup. He's good. He can't move. So that's
John, you have a better chance of being a backup than Kirk Cousins right now.
But shout out to Kirk Cousins' agent.
His agent
continued to do great work to go ahead and get him all the money that he possibly could get. Like you said, he's been above average quarterback for the majority of his career. I don't know why the Falcons gave him all that money coming off the Achilles injury. But the Jets also believed in Aaron Rodgers this year, so apparently it happened. But all that being said, Jonathan Taylor for laying the Colts season to rest, and also Kirk Cousins as a starting quarterback in the National Football League. Sorry to tell you.
Bad news, they gave you life. Sayonara.
They gave you life. For that, all that being said, obviously Chiefs have a great game coming up against the Texans, another playoff opponent, a chance to put the magic number for the Chiefs 1 seed clinching scenarios 2-1. And obviously we hope that it will be Patrick Mahomes. Sounds like he's confident in that ankle. So we'll see as far as Saturday is concerned. Stay tuned to Kingdom Cast coming up on Thursday. We have a lot of great news coming for you guys. A lot of things cooking that we're going to be excited
brewing
for you guys. I know we didn't have a Tell the Truth trifecta this week, but we will end up having one for you guys on Saturday for sure. Be on the lookout for that. We are really excited about what we got cooking up for you guys coming up here soon, man. So yeah, for DG, CJ, I'm DMac, man. Peace out. Tell the truth and go Chiefs.